This is our last week. All that's left are the glowing embers remaining from the God of Lightning's 7-year journey through fiery Aries, and that is now about to close, because by March 6th of next week, it will be ashes. It will be the ashes from which we are reborn as free spirits. For Uranus has helped us unchain ourselves from imprisoning beliefs that we built in our minds, beliefs that held us back from acceptance of ourselves as magnificent, powerful firebirds. Welcome. I'm Judith Royal, Archetypal Astrology, and this is your astrology weather forecast for the week of February 25th to March the 3rd, 2019. Fire also has a purifying effect. It has a cleansing, especially if we use it that way for our perceptions. It's like a burning off of erroneous beliefs. So, for example, I noticed with myself this week that I had to read this one sentence twice. At first, I read this quote from a White House press secretary as, "I certainly don't think that the president at any point has done anything but condone violence." What? Condone violence? Actually, what she said was, "I certainly don't think that the president at any point has done anything but condemn violence." So, I'm caught, right? I'm caught in a perceptual prejudice. This was my brain trained by my own beliefs. Without my conscious knowing, my conscious intention, I had substituted the word condone for condemn. I've listened to a lot of Freudian slips in my day, but this perceptual substitution reminded me of how strong my belief systems can be. Any one of us can literally rewrite what's shown to us in black and white, and I'm certainly guilty of that. So our perceptions really are our karma. Perception is our brain's interpretation of people and events, and it absolutely clouds our view of the truth. If you've been following along with me, you remember that for 2019, I've been talking to you about being far-seeing and sure-footed, thanks to Saturn's sojourn in the sign of Capricorn, and we've had that since December of 2017. This week I noticed that we had a beautiful example of this far-seeing, which I'll call far, far out seeing, because while looking for that elusive planet 9, some astronomers this week accidentally discovered that far beyond Neptune and Pluto are two objects. Now, one of these had already been seen, and that one they named Far Out. And this week, the second object was seen, and they call that Far, Far Out. Now, both of these objects were accidentally discovered while they were looking for something else. And I think that is a poignant example of exactly what we're going to be doing. We're already doing, but we're going to be doing a lot more of, which is allowing ourselves to question the first blush of an idea or an old belief popping up that we can see clearly has been very restrictive for us. And so we look beyond it, just like good scientists. Now let's look at this week ahead, the last week that the God of Lightning will be in the sign of fiery Aries. We start Monday, February 25th, with the moon still in the sign of Scorpio, where she's been for the weekend. But before she leaves, she's going to make a beautiful trine to our Mercury, who's now in Pisces. So this is a lovely spiritual start to Monday morning, and I hope you make time for a meditation because it will be quite lovely and loving. But then around 1 in the afternoon, Pacific Standard Time in the U.S., she's going to move into fiery Sagittarius. And so now we have Uranus still in fire and the moon in fire. And so they get along very well, but this is going to be a bit impulsive energy because Sagittarius always has something of that foot and mouth aspect to it, where we impulsively speak what is coming through our intuition without a filter. And that's not really all bad. So on Tuesday, I am, though, going to give a word of caution because the moon in Sagittarius is going to be in a bit of a fog. So things that you think you are downloading intuitively may not be the truth. So here is that place where you want to question your perception, knowing that we are all terrible eyewitnesses because our perception is so selective. Now we get help on Wednesday because the moon goes into Capricorn, which is much more practical. And here we have that sure-footed, far-seeing vision coming through our intuitive intellect, our intuitive minds. And it's going to make a beautiful, lucky day, one of some real good fortune, as well as a bit of effervescence, some sparkle in your mood. For Thursday and Friday, the moon in Capricorn is, of course, going to, one by one, join Saturn, Sheriff Saturn, who's already in Capricorn, and powerful Pluto, who's been in Capricorn since 2008. Notice what you're picking up Thursday, Friday, and into Saturday morning with all the Capricorn, because the moon is often the trigger for the bigger planet's energy. And so what is all this Capricorn really helping us with the most? It looks like limitations sometimes, and of course, Saturn in Capricorn is that sheriff who's intent on the rules. It can feel like limitations, but really, the benevolent side of that is transparency. Because by insisting that we follow certain rules, let's say in our economy, in the banking system, etc., those SEC rules, for example, in the stock market, they bring transparency, and we get to know much more about what's happening, so that we're not as surprised or shocked by vulnerability, our own vulnerabilities of not knowing. Friday is particularly powerful in that the moon in Capricorn is exactly paired with Saturn and Pluto. Great depth of understanding. If you trust your intuition, please do. And also on Friday, Venus, the goddess of love, changes signs. So she is leaving Capricorn, where she's been a little bit aloof and reserved, and she's moving into Aquarius, where she's also got a bit of a too much intellect going on in terms of the heart. However, in Aquarius, this is a great humanitarian love. So we will be much more open to and tuned into the needs of the citizens throughout the world, because especially as Uranus moves into Taurus, We are more and more going to be global citizens and honoring others who are also global citizens with us. How sweet it is that Saturday in the afternoon, the moon also goes into Aquarius, and so the moon and Venus meet up, and that is the most unconditionally loving of all emotions. So savor this and make Saturday a great date night, because on Sunday the moon is still in humanitarian Aquarius. However, she's running into a square, an internal tension for all of us with Mars, who is in the earth sign of Taurus. It's a gift, actually, to be able to see where your anger is, where inside of yourself there is some frustration that has been seething, because we want to be noticing, and we will be shown this sense of urgency about changing that, about bringing that into the light openly, so that in the course of the times to come, we will all be having, if we choose, a very deep healing, because our anger, our frustrations, show us where we need to forgive. You will especially be able to notice this on that Tuesday, the 26th, our cautionary day, because that is also the day of the last quarter moon in Sagittarius. That's our pruning and our crisis point, showing us where to let go. And that's going to be critically important as we move into what's on the road ahead. In particular, this big shift that we will be having on March the 6th. You remember I've asked you to star this date many times. It is the day that Uranus has finished completely his 7-year itchy stay in Aries, and will be in Taurus for the next 7 years. But that's not all. On March 6th, Mercury is also going to go retrograde. So up until March 6th, if you remember, I've told you that we have every planet has been in direct motion. So there has been a lot happening, a lot of events. Our calendar's jammed full. And now communications, Mercury, is going to go retrograde, meaning we're going to relook, we're going to rethink some of our positions, because in retrograde from March 6th to the 28th, he'll be in the very last degrees of Pisces. So this is taking us back through the burial ground, where maybe we've tried to keep some of those resentments hidden. But really, it's the call for bringing that into the consciousness from our unconscious minds, so that we can let it go. Our fresh start is further emphasized on March 6th because it is a new moon. And it is the new moon in Pisces. So once again, that takes us through that 12th house that is compassion and empathy, but it is also the burial ground and also the house of self-undoing. So remember, 2019 in the Tarot and numerology is also the Hanged Man. So we are called in many layers, many levels, to let go of the ego self and remember who we truly are. We are beautiful, magnificent spirits temporarily housed in a body whose only true function is to act as the messenger so that we can carry the light and the message of love to others. This soul-searching new moon that takes us to the depths of the unseen is also paired up with Sun and Mercury and Neptune in Pisces, so that we can break the bondage to the ego, which is really, the body is the symbol of the ego because it is the symbol of separation. In any case, the better way of saying that is by dissolving ego. We do aspire to that lovely quote from Yoda, "Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter." So from our spiritual selves, will you join me in believing that suffering cannot exist before the face of any one of us who has forgiven themselves and has blessed themselves? Together, let's choose joy instead of pain, reality instead of fantasy, love instead of fear. In other words, let's join together to see the world right side up. So thank you so much for listening. And if you would like to look further into your own personal astrological chart, just shoot me an email at judith@judithroyal.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week for more about this exciting March 6th shift. Bye for now.